Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Ijeoma Ucheibe. I'm the practice manager at the Lawcrest LLP and also a member of Association of Law Firm Administrators Nigeria. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning for yet another learning series. It leads anchored by our S schools, and we have our president, Mrs. Joy Harrison Abiola, and Mrs. Odunola already in the house. But most excitingly, we have our guest speaker who has graciously agreed to do this. And we cannot wait to see what he's about to share with us. So Famolu is joining us from the Netherlands, as I understand. What time is it over there now? Should be 10, is it 10 or 11? I know that we're like an hour ahead. Okay, so thank you so much. In a bit, I'm going to read and introduce the guest speaker, but I just wanted to talk through what we do at Association of Law Firm Administrators, our vision, our mission statement, and also the core values that guide us as an association. So I'll be sharing my screen shortly while I talk through them. Give me a minute. If we can all see my screen, just let me know.
Yes, I can.
Option, yeah. Okay.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
So I can see the
screen. So I like to say that Alan has had a long history. We must have started as practice administrators in 2010 before we had our first meeting in 2015, then had the official registration of the association as an incorporate trustees under the CAMA. And the very first thing we came up with was our vision, which was what was happening at the time. And we said, we're going to shape the future of legal practice management by building professional competencies through strategic collaboration and thought leadership. One of that strategic collaborations is what we're having with Samuel this morning, because we don't also want to feel like we're an island, and we also all want to learn from each other, but we also try to go out there and see how can we bring someone who we know is doing fantastic in the field and bring that knowledge and expertise to share with the association. So that's one of the ideas behind the vision statement for the association. Now, our mission statement is to build professional competencies through strategic collaboration and thought leadership. It's a bit similar to what we have as our vision, but it has to tie in. That way you know that there's a destination in mind for every legal management professional who is a member of ALAN. I'm going to go through our core values, which we actually gave an acronym of CLIP. Sorry, I'm trying to shift this. So it's a set of core values that we felt is going to guide our responsibilities to one another and to our stakeholders. They represent our strengths and our aspiration as individual members and as an association to get where we want to be, which is to be a great association that everyone wants to be associated with. So one of the core values we have is creativity. We have to be honest with ourselves. With everything that's happened with COVID and all, now more than ever before, we need to be innovative in our approach, which is really part of the reasons why we point to this topic, because there's a time where we felt like everyone had to be in the office, right? But now you can see that Samuel is joining Netherlands, and we are actually going to learn. It doesn't have to be a situation where you have him facing a board to text people. He can talk to you from wherever. So that's one of the core values that governs what we do as an association. We try to have our members being creative. We encourage curious and new ideas and design thinking. So that way we're able to adapt what it is we have come up with to the challenges that we are going to face as legal management professionals and also in the legal and global environment. The second one is leadership. We exist to make impact. We are not just a flash in the pan. We want to be able to lead change initiatives that are focused on providing thought leadership. And that's why we have training series throughout the year, at least 4 to 5 of them. We know that are geared towards building these professional competencies. We know that our professionals who are members of our should have or have already. Now, integrity is, I think, the most important of these values. It's the bedrock of everything we do, not just as human beings, but also as what we stand for as an association and as individual members of the association. We have to say what we mean, we do what we say, and it is the most valuable thing that we hold dear to. We'd like to promote dialogue, and that is why we have partnerships, not just with law firms, with people who we know that we have with law firms, with trainers. Because at the end of the day, we want to promote dialogue. We want to build bridges. We want to nurture strong partnership that we're able to create a flow of value and knowledge between all stakeholders in legal practice and management across Nigeria. And like I was saying to my chair once, I said very soon across Africa. We have to also be ambitious about these things. And lastly, we'd like to deliver more than what is expected, because there's a natural assumption that when you are a legal management professional, you are here to be a solution provider. So we like to excel. And that is why as an association, we've built a gold standard model of this is what you are expected to do as a legal management professional to properly represent the association. So that's why we have like an excellent community of lawyers, law firms, law organizations, and clients that interact with what we do as an association. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, but I just want to quickly talk about an event that we have planned with the Section on Business Law, the MBA, on the 30th of June. It's called the Managing Partners Roundtable. It's going to be taking place at the Lagos Court of Arbitration. I'm going to provide the address in the chat option very soon, but it's something that we are very, very excited about because it shows that we're not just an association that is existing for legal management professionals. People are beginning to see the value we've created in the past, the value we continue to create, and the value we can also create, not just for law firms that we work with, but for organizations we work with across board. And I'm very, very excited. I can't wait for us to actually join in that conversation. It's taking place on the 30th of June. But so that I don't bore us too long, I'll come back to this towards the end after we have taken comments on today's presentation. But I just want to use this opportunity to also especially thank Famolu for joining us. Because we can't thank you. You'll be doing anything else right now. You'll be sleeping or resting. Well, you chose to come and be the enabler for Allah. And we are very, very grateful that you're doing this with us. So I'm going to read a short profile of the speaker for today's training before he comes in to take us through what he has to offer today. So Samuel is a lawyer and he specializes in privacy and information security. Samuel enables people and systems to achieve lofty objectives through continuous research and application of industry best practices in privacy and information security. He's trained and licensed as a lawyer with over 7 years post-qualification experience. He finds fulfillment in solving complex problems, improving processes, and simplifying technical jargons. Like that last part. He has been a trainer and speaker for leading organizations like Nigerian Bar Association, Section of Business, or Google, The list is very long, but I can just keep it short for this presentation. And he delivering hands-on sessions on online security, safety, cyber security for businesses, digital skills, low-code web design, digital marketing, career options in digital entrepreneurship, and personal development. I would go on to read a lot because I know that one thing that stood out for me about this profile of his is everyone I have asked questions about Samuel prior to today because I also wanted to do my research about who was speaking. And the first thing is, please, you know who Samuel Famolu is? Oh, the enabler. So don't call him Samuel when you're introducing him. Everyone knows him as the enabler. So I said, when he calls you today, he's going to tell us about that nickname because he seems to have stuck with everyone who has crossed paths with him. And most importantly, I hear that he loves to cook and travel. Samuel, welcome to Alan Training Series. You can
Hello,
read your
everyone.
mic.
Thank you very much for having me, and it's such a privilege to be here. And I'm hoping we are going to have a very fantastic session. So I was just trying to do some housekeeping. I had to put everybody on mute so that we don't have too many background noise. So please just if you have a question, please, you could feel free to unmute yourself and ask. And I'm also going to indulge or ask that you write your questions while the session is going. Don't wait till the end. So please feel free to ask your questions along or just write it down, maybe drop it in the chat and see, and then we can see how we can moderate that. So I have a few minutes to share on the pros and cons of remote working. So I'll just give a brief introduction of how I came to this point. Like Ijeoma said, I am the enabler, and that didn't just come as a nickname. That is a summary of who I am as a person. I feel that is my purpose. That is my purpose statement. And I enable people and systems for lofty objectives. So I am the enabler. That is just my purpose. And for me, I grew up in Kwara State in Ilorin. I went to primary school, secondary school, and university in Ilorin. I did my bachelor's in law at the University of Ilorin, and I graduated in 2014. And then I just felt I've done enough for Ilorin. I want to move to bigger cities. And the next destination for me was Bayelsa. So I did my law school in Bayelsa, and while everybody was choosing Kano, no, they were choosing a lot. It was a lot of Abuja and Lagos. I was like, no, I want to go somewhere where I don't know anybody and where nobody knows me. Unfortunately, I had about 16 other classmates who were posted to Bayelsa, so we just had to go as buddies and families. And then from Bayelsa, I wanted to go serve in Kano, but I just didn't get Kano. I got Jos, so I was posted to Jos. I didn't redeploy with all the gist that was going on then. So I served in Jos, and then I felt, okay, let me just get a very clear direction of where my life was going. And then I decided to start life in Jos, and that was about 2015. So I've based in Jos for a while, and then I did service here with a law firm, practice, did litigation, corporate stuff, and all of those things for about a year. But I felt, having to move a motion before a judge took me 6 months, and that's a lot of 6 months of valuable time. I could have done a whole lot of other things. And I moved into the corporate sector as an in-house lawyer for a tech firm. And then I did a lot of work projects for software developers and all of those things. And then got into a project with some of the multinationals, Facebook and Google and all the like. So that really took me around Nigeria. I've been to maybe the Kano, Abuja, Enugu, Lagos, Bayelsa Law School again. After I got called to the bar. And then just traveling about maybe 23 states in Nigeria, and just sometimes there was a trip I did some time ago from Kano. I got to Abuja around 5 a.m. and then I was in Enugu by 2 p.m. and that was by road, not by flight. So it could be sometimes hectic. So I want to let you know that I have fun and so much enjoyment doing this. It's a real pleasure to be a part of this. Thank you, Auntie Joy. I call her Auntie Joy because she's such a fantastic person. We sat together at the conference in 2019, and I was sharing the stage with her, and I was there speaking about why the legal practice should start approaching practice with a bit of remote flavor. Because for me as a lawyer, I always had this concerns of how to just make things better for my clients. And I started my law practice, which is Sabi Lawyer, that a lot of people know as well. And most of my clients were just people who wanted to do business registrations, limited liability. They wanted to consult on arbitration of business models or intellectual property. And I'm like, okay, we can make this really easy. Just a desk and a computer is all I need, and WhatsApp. So whenever they have documents to send, I trusted the good old post office, and they usually deliver the document to my doorstep, and then I'm able to do whatever I need to do and send it back to them. So they didn't need to even be in my office, or even some of my clients, I've never met them face to face before. They just send the documents, attach it, and then that was how remote work has been for me. So my own journey of remote work started early in about 2018, working remote in Jos, and that was because I didn't have to be in the office. No, I didn't have a job particular. I wasn't an employee. I had to do a lot of stuff by myself for myself. So I would go to the beer parlor. That was where I was working from. And I'm working, I'm trying to type a very serious email, and then this guy just puffing some stuff in my. I'm like, oh God, how do I cope with this? And so, guy, sometimes I drink one coke for about 6 hours just to make sure my laptop is charged, and then I'm able to work and keep. I had to invest in getting microphone that will cancel noise and all of this, just to make sure that I'm able to give whoever I'm speaking with a lot of good experience. So for me, it was always been looking for ways to make sure that things work, and of course, I was able to make a lot of progress. And now I've also been, when I moved to the Netherlands for my master's in law and technology, I only did two months in class, and then we had to go remote as well. And that changed a whole lot of conversation. I've been working now for about 2 years, and the last years I've only been to the office a handful of times. Maybe it's not up to 20 times. Let me see, because this year alone I've only been to the office maybe 7 times. I didn't go at all in February. So having said all of that, I understand where employers stand, I understand where employees stand, and I'll try to make a balance of both. And then we'll take a lot of questions and answers and see how we can tie it off from there. So I'm going to quickly share, I'm going to share my screen. I hope you can all see my screen. If you can, just give me a thumbs up. And let's go from the beginning. Wait. You people have seen too much of what I was talking about. All right, thank you. Great. So thank you once again for having me here, and I'll just go straight into it. So remote working, I hear a lot of conversations that have been going on. So I've shared my own challenge of having to work remotely in Nigeria, particularly in Jos Plateau State, where a lot of things may be uncertain at some times. I just had to also invest in making sure that remote work was going to be good for me. I had to buy a laptop that could stay 6 hours of battery. I have to buy a special type of mouthpiece and earphone to do some noise cancelling if I have to take calls, and then all of those things. But let's get into this. So I am Samuel, and some people know me as Sabi Lawyer, or I am Sabi Lawyer because the whole idea of Sabi Lawyer is just make something very easy for people to relate with. There's a lawyer that Sabi. It's that simple. So I Sabi law, I Sabi tech, I Sabi business, I Sabi some. So just bring all of this, because being a lawyer, you have a lot of clients. So if I just say I'm a lawyer, yes, if I say I'm a lawyer with Sabi, the conversation just goes a different way. So that is how Sabi Lawyer came. It's registered in Nigeria as a law consulting practice. So yeah. But today we're talking about remote work. So I will start with a few numbers. What you see on my screen is you see about 62.4 million hours is reported. This sometimes doesn't have figures from Nigeria, so I'll just try and extrapolate and see what we can assume or how we can adopt it to a Nigerian setting. So 62.4 million hours of daily commutes is saved when people don't go to work, or when some people did not go to work, from March to September in 2020. And that totaled to about 9 billion hours of commutes for a lot of employees. So generally, a lot of people move to work and back to work, and either some people do 3 hours of commute, some do 2 hours back and forth, some people do much more, but all of that was put to about 9 billion hours of commute, which was saved between March and September globally. 62% of employees say they now expect their employers to allow them work remotely moving forward, and that could be a positive thing, or that could have its own pros and cons, but That's what we are here to talk about. 83% of employees also report that they are more productive working from home. Hopefully, because I know for someone like me, I can be frying plantain and be in a Zoom meeting. As long as my camera is not on, I'm productive. And 77% of employees say that working remotely will help their company to lower operating costs. And that is very, very factual, because you don't have to, because you put all the costs in one place, but now if you do remote work, that means you have to spread the cost across a whole lot of employees. So in some way, it could be very dynamic. So what is the employer's perspective? And this is a conversation that is really a hot burning topic globally. In recent times, you heard Elon Musk declare that some employees have to be in the office at least 40 hours a week. And that has generated a whole lot of conversation. And I have a Tesla plant somewhere around my city, so just maybe 10 minutes away from where I'm staying currently. And these guys have a lot of backlogs. If you understand a bit about Elon Musk himself, he's very audacious. He's someone that makes a lot of uh, it makes a lot of offer, like it gives people something to anticipate or wait for, and then he has to go back and work it out. Like when the first Tesla product was released, yeah, a lot of people had booked, and then they were supposed to release it 1 year after. They had to delay and shift it, 6 months, and then so sometimes they have a lot of backlogs, and then you have to also understand the terrain of his business. If people are working remote, that means people can buy cars. So it's quite motivating for him to say people have to come back to work so that they can drive the car. The employees can drive the cars around town so that more people can see the cars and more people can buy the cars. And so there's a whole lot of conversation that goes around why he said it and why he didn't say it and all of those things. They have backlogs, which is a lot of business demands. Shareholders are asking for stocks, stakeholders are making comments and all of those things. Employees also are chilling. Some guy was on a yacht in a city different from where he was positioned to work, and guys just having fun. It may be outside office hours, but that doesn't give him or give a lot of people the confidence that these guys are really working to deliver on the goals that we've set. So a lot of employers have perspectives and they have concerns, and I'm going to talk about a few of those concerns. So I'm picking this from a global perspective, but I'm also going to narrow it down to a local perspective. So how does this work in Lagos, Nigeria? How does this work in Abuja? How does this work in Enugu? How does this work in Kano? How does this work in Jos? And we'll try to break all of those things down. So take, for example, we have a new employee, and the employee is supposed to start working for the company as a remote staff. How do we manage this? You have to do onboarding, you have to understand the employee style of work, the employee has to understand how the company works, you have to understand a lot about the business, you have to be around the business to understand how things are done. You can see and catch a lot by what you experience in the office, and all of those things can't happen from the remote workspace. So a lot of jobs may not be able to fit properly into remote working, and it may not be exclusively remote working. It could be hybrid, and there are a lot of options to that. So employers have concerns, and I'm going to give a few of these. First is trade secrets. Employers are concerned about the fact that if we allow employees to work remotely, they could take it to the extreme and work in places that are not safe, and that means the trade secrets are exposed and vulnerable. So we're already working on a project at the office, and it's still at the development stage, and this guy is working in a public space that we don't know. In some very sophisticated cities, there are cameras in every corner that make sure that anything is going. Anybody can zoom into your screen and then check what is going on. I've been on trains, flights, and see people working. I just read the header and I read the base, and I know what the whole thing is all about, and I can use that as maybe a competitive strategy. So employers are concerned about their trade secrets. They are concerned about the intellectual property that is supposed to be within the office network or within the business network, and that brings a whole lot of concern for them. So they want to know, if we allow these guys work remote, can we still guarantee that our secrets, our trade secrets are safe, our intellectual property is safe, and all of those things. So there are a lot of concerns, especially for knowledge workers and knowledge workers in very fast-paced technology space. And this also happens to law firms. A lot of law firms also have trade secrets. You don't want to always discuss clients publicly. You don't want to mention some names, but sometimes if I mention names of big clients, it gives me some sort of braggadocious effect. I can drop names on phones and be like, we are big boys here. Don't be talking to us anyhow. So those are kind of how employees could spill trade secrets. Secondly, we talk about taxes. If you look at how some systems work, and in some countries, taxes are paid according to states. So the taxes I pay in Lagos State as an employee in Lagos State may be different from the taxes I pay as an employee in Kwara State. Of course, the incomes are also different, they are varying. I can decide to be earning in Lagos and go and live in Kwara, which is probably half the cost of living if I was in Lagos. That means I'm earning more, or I'm not spending as much as I'm expected to spend. I've taken out all the possible local taxes out of Lagos, and I'm now putting it in an Ilorin or Kwara State economy. So taxes are also a lot of concerns for employers or for governments. If government is telling these business owners, your employees cannot just be working anywhere, it confuses the whole tax system, because they are earning high and paying low taxes, or you are earning high and you are not paying like community taxes, municipal taxes, because you've moved out of your registered address to another location, and that becomes a concern. A lot of taxes, a lot of levies, a lot of dues that are supposed to be paid in a specific city because of the people who live there and work there may be missing because people have to translate to remote work, and this becomes a concern for the government. The government then eventually exerts this pressure on business owners. So taxes are also a concern. I could be chilling. So yeah, taxes are a concern almost all the time. Almost all the time. There is also the issue of privacy and security. Wi-Fi is a very vulnerable. Information systems, gadgets, all of these things have a lot of vulnerabilities, and not everybody is very cybersecurity sensitive, as it were. So you see just Wi-Fi is free, it's not passworded. Awoof, you just connect like that, bam, and you are there using free Wi-Fi to do office work and transact very sensitive information on the office on that free network, which may be something being spoofed, or someone trying to play pranks or do some funny stuff. So privacy and security is a big concern for employers. They want to be sure that your internet is safe. They want to be sure that your office laptop is safe, because if somebody gets away with your office laptop, then they'll be able to access a lot of stuff on the hard drive, on the network, or anything. So privacy and security is also a huge concern. If you work in a very, very let's even say some people who are government contractors, they are working on a project for the federal government, and this project is not even supposed to make it to the public light. But because you have to work remote, you have to maybe take some of these documents and work remotely with it. Some people don't even work in their houses; they work in public spaces. That's what the concern is. So you cannot even tell people, okay, work remotely, but work in your house. Some people want. Sometimes I work from the public library, but I make sure I'm exercising a whole lot of security measures just to make sure that I don't sit in a place where the camera can be behind me. Sometimes I just feel like maybe I'm being weird, but I understand how some of these things work. You have to understand that employers are concerned about privacy, about security, as much as it affects remote work. Another concern for employers is innovation. You see, employers want to maximize the human resource that they have. They want to know that people who are working for them are bringing their A game to the business, to the office. So we don't want to just stay here and just keep shop running because we feel like it. We have to innovate, because some people say it's either you innovate or you close shop. So how do we make sure that we are able to maximize our talent pool, our human resource, in such a way that we are able to innovate continuously and consistently across board? It also continues with some of this culture. How do you involve new employees or existing employees? How do you transfer culture? Because you have senior employees who have been in the organization for a while, and then you have new people or middle people. How do you make sure that there is a very, very easy flow of knowledge. There's something they call communities of practice, which is if you stay around the people who are experts in an area, there's a lot you can catch from the interactions you have with them. And a lot of these things are also built in cultures. Some people say if an organization is able to leverage its culture, it's able to make as much as 400% annual in terms of revenue. So people, employers are also concerned about how to, sustain the culture, the work ethic, the deliverables, the excellence, the brand as it is when it comes to having people work remotely. Now, I'm also being reminded of the fact that remote work is not exclusive. It may be partial, it may be hybrid. So you work a few days in the office and a few days off, but some people are doing it totally remote. So understand there are a bit of dynamics here. Another thing is liabilities. The moment if you work across international laws a bit, you understand that when an employee decides to plant himself in another location where the company is not registered, by that, a few legal provisions can be read to mean that the company has extended its operations to that city. I'll give, for example, an employee or a company is registered in Lagos, Nigeria, but the employee is working in Ibadan. It can be assumed that the company has operations in Ibadan because an employee is there in Ibadan. And then that means the company is not just in Lagos, but the company is also existing in Ibadan. Some laws have provisions like that. Because if you look at the US, for example, an employee that is supposed to be working in New York, but lives in Denver, Colorado, somewhere, there are two different laws in those two different places. So this could extend the liabilities of the organization. So they are also concerned. What if the employee even moves out of the country totally and works in totally different in totally different country? Let's say the person is working in Ukraine or the person was working in Russia, and all of these things happen and they had to shut down a lot of these. That becomes a liability for the organization because the organization is responsible to the government for every employer. We are also talking about deliverables. How do you want to measure your employees' performance? Some employers prefer to just know that the employees are in the office and they will assume that they are working. So do you want to see your employers actually doing work, or do you want to see your employers as being busy, your employees, pardon me, you want to see your employees as being busy, or you want to see them actually doing work? So you may have to balance what your expectations are when it comes to deliverables. Also is the challenge of time zones, of course. For Lagos, Nigeria, or for Abuja, it may not be an issue, but if, for example, I have an employee who is supposed to be in Abuja, and for one reason or the other, the person is chilling in India, that is a very, very different time zone. Or the person is deciding to go and visit family in the US and work from the US. That is a totally different time zone I have to manage with that. If the employer does not know, the employer may not be able to work alongside with these contingencies, and that becomes an issue. So if you employ someone in Lagos, Nigeria, and you're expecting that the person is just in Ikeja there, but the person is in is in San Francisco and is chilling with all this, what do you call him again? Peru para, no, whatever. But so some people can decide to just move out totally of the country, and then you have to manage with time zone issues and all of those things. So it becomes an issue. More is the well-being of the employee. If we have employees who come to work, we may be able to identify who is maybe not doing well, who is stressed, who is having a serious time burnout, or who is having a lot of things go on when you actually observe your employees. You see their demeanor, you see their courage, and you're also even able to have conversations with them to pick a whole lot of pointers, and you don't just get an employee wake up and say, I'm quitting all of a sudden, or an employee having suicidal thoughts and all of those things. So well-being is becoming a very, very major concern for a lot of employers, and they are most able to manage it when employees are together. So one person can, pick it up and be able to tell HR, I don't think something is right in this place and all of those things. So having well-being, physical well-being, properly provided and effective is also a concern when it comes to remote work. Now, the stakeholders. Once you set up a company and you have stakeholders involved, there is a lot of things you can't do. You can't just afford not to have deliverables. You can't just have for, especially when you have shareholders, let's say for private limited companies or public limited liability companies, your shareholders are really, really the guys that want to have results every now and then. So this also becomes a concern. If I have half of my employees working full-time remote, am I still able to meet up with the shareholders' expectations? Am I still able to meet up with what the stakeholders are involved? Am I still able to coordinate properly with my vendors, with my suppliers, with my downlines and uplines, and everybody involved in the chain of our business? So managing this stakeholder interest is also a key concern for a lot of employers. And then we'll talk about infrastructure, power, laptop, health services. If you're in a place where there is no proper health facility, there is no medical service, there's no doctor, there's no ambulance, that becomes a concern for the employer. If anything happens, God forbid, how do you sort it? How do you fix it? Because if an employee dies, that becomes a huge burden on the employer, and that becomes very, very serious. Your employee should not die in your service, so to speak, that a lot of employers are trying to prevent. So infrastructure is very, very key for employers when it comes to remote work. Do you have power supply in Nigeria? Of course, I told you I used to work from the beer parlor, because at least they'll play music, they'll put on those green and blue lights. The thing just be turning my eyes. I have to work and do the best I can. But that's how I had to survive. If I had to make a call, I'd move out, go to a quiet place, and then do my course and then get back. But I had to keep my power running. I had to be online. I had to make sure that I'm doing as much as I can. And all of those things. Health insurance is not in every country. Even your health insurance in Lagos may not even cover you in the state. And some people don't even have health insurance in the first place. So you consider a whole lot of these things, and you're like, let's just keep these people coming to the office so that if anything happens, that we can call, an HMO, or we can call these guys and take care of everything. So this is also a concern for employers. Another thing, I hope you're still with me and I'm not boring you, because these are a whole lot of issues that I just had to, bring to the highlights, which is speaking from the employer's perspective. Are you
We're totally with you, totally.
Great, thank you. So another concern for employers is economic espionage. This means there are some employees that they just came to spoil show for your company. They don't have any other mission or agenda. They are just there to make sure that this thing doesn't work. So they start perforating company assets, company documents, trying to create a replica. Just the whole idea of economic espionage is somebody is intentionally taking or leaking intellectual property to your adversaries or to your competitors, or even to for criminal purposes. If I know how the entire organization work and I start, leveraging that information to get profit, it becomes an issue. So economic espionage is also a concern for a lot of employers. We've heard of a lot of people being fired because they were caught with copies of company assets on a personal drive, and they took it out of the company, and then they've shared a lot of blueprints with adversaries, a whole lot of it. I did a bit of study on cyber espionage, economic cyber espionage, and you find out that a lot of things are going on behind the scenes. Corporate suppliers who are eavesdropping on employees, gadgets not being properly saved, having backdoors in tools and all of those things. Because if I buy a webcam and I don't know where or the source of the webcam, probably I didn't have to go through procurement. Procurement didn't check who the supplier is. They didn't really scan or check whether the webcam is produced from a genuine source. There's just a lot. So if I buy a webcam, for example, if I buy a webcam, it could be a webcam that is produced in a country that is an adversary to the country I'm staying in. So China, US, they are always at odds. China is spying on US, US is spying on China. Both of them know, both of them are aware, but both of them don't want to stop it. And that becomes an issue. So I buy a webcam. If I'm in the US, I buy a webcam from China directly that my employer did not provide. And then unknown to me, that webcam may be sending information to the Chinese company in favor of the Chinese government. And that becomes an issue. So I'm saying stuff and I'm thinking, oh, I'm chilling, I'm cool, and everything is fine. But something is being recorded somewhere. A whole facility, a whole building was donated to a country. I can't remember the exact name now. Not a country, to one of these intergovernmental parastatals. And the idea was that in that facility, it was like a conference room. The cameras, the security cameras in that building were they have microphones. And then what happens was at midnight, the server becomes very active, and then the technician for that facility raised the question like, at midnight there is a huge traffic going out, so there is a lot of upload for this server, and they are wondering what was the issue. Eventually investigation was done, and they discovered that the country that donated that building to them had bugged the old building. So all the things that were transacted and all the transactions that happen in a day are recorded on those devices, and those devices are exported to the country that donated that building to them. That's you telling yourself that you have closed all your curtains, you have closed all the lights, but somebody is inside your room with you and you don't know. Things like that happen. So economic espionage is a huge concern for employers. And that's why some people cannot just joke with remote work, either fully or hybrid, but circumstances present themselves and we have to manage with them. Employers are dealing with a lot. I must tell you, they are dealing with a lot. They are also concerned about social life, the depth and continuity of conversations. If I have my employees in the work and we discuss ABC, it's possible that even before the end of the day, some people in the office will still talk about it and then be able to come up with new ways or new strategies or new ideas on how things can be done differently or how things can be improved. If you are in the remote space, we are working remotely. Once you finish the Zoom call that some people don't even participate in fully, is the screen showing? Yes. Can you hear me? Yes. That's the only contribution they have in the meeting. And after the meeting is done, close and then shut down the laptop. Pam, no thinking about what was discussed. Some people don't even bother to go back to review what the meeting was all about. And that hurts a lot of employers, because you're supposed to be giving us the all and the best of yourself while you are in our employ, but that may not always be the situation with working remotely. So social life within the office and outside the office becomes an issue. There's a typo there, pardon me. And there's also the fear of poaching. If we start having remote workers working in different places, maybe permanently, maybe we don't see our employee for 3 weeks, 3 months, 5 months. Are we sure that this guy is still working with us, or some people are already working on how to take him from us? And so a lot of poaching could be going on. It could be a negative exposure for your talent, so that becomes a very, very critical issue for a lot of people. I'm not able to read the charts now, but I'll definitely get to them. I'll just scan through eventually. So we'll talk about contracts. If an employee is employed under the Lagos state law, there is a lot of provisions that cover for an employee residing in Lagos and working in Lagos. If I'm residing in a particular city, there are laws for that city that cover and protect me as an employee. There are rights associated with me living and working in that city. So the contract has to model what is applicable. Because I tell you, for some contracts, you can't work more than 40 hours. There's not how the employer wants to pay you more. They can't employ you for more than 40 hours a week. That is full-time work. 1 FTE is equal to 40 hours. If for any reason your employees are signed or have a contract exceeding 40 hours, that becomes an issue for the employer. So if you are now saying we are employing you under this particular law, which is where we employed you at and where you signed the contract, but you move to another place where something else happens, it becomes an issue. People working in the US and living in Dubai. Dubai is adopting maybe a 4-day work week, and then every employer working on the 5th day, or every employee working on the 5th day. A lot of things going on. Finland has its own rule. Poland has its own rule. So a lot of countries and cities and states have different rules when it comes to employee contracts and how things are done within the employee space. So employers have these concerns of, okay, under what law do we engage this employee? What are the rules? What are the rights? What are the exceptions? If the things that you have to do in Netherlands are quite different across the border when you move to Belgium or beyond, when you go to Germany, there has to be a workers' council involved in a lot of decisions that involve employees that are more than 10 in an organization. So yeah, employers have to grapple with a whole lot of other things. The moment our employee is out of a specific jurisdiction under which we are registered, it becomes an extra burden on the employer. Some works may be excluded, but of course, there is a concern for that. And also there's a high rise of double jobs. People are working remotely for two different companies. So two laptops, two laptops, one for job A, one for job B. You log on to this, you do job one, you log on to this, you do, and both of them are earning well on two different jobs. So you don't have to do any extra thing, just do what you have to do, check the boxes on job one, and you're good. You don't have to bother about any. Employees are becoming very nonchalant. They'll just do their work and then move on and then sign on to job two. So is also becoming an issue now where people are able to make, because they won't get promoted fast. That is an issue because they are not seen to be doing work. So it may affect their level or rate of promotion. And then they're like, okay, for me to be promoted maybe from 250,000 to 400,000, I have to put in the work. I have to be seen doing the work, late nights, early mornings. But if I'm doing two jobs of 200K, I'll make my 400K quite easily and just maybe spend the same amount of time I spend on both jobs within a day, and I'm comfortably able to do that. So all of these things are becoming a concern for employers, and it is a lot. Having said all of this, some people are of the opinion that big companies, small companies, they know that having flexible work options is necessary, but look at the context of your environment. What works best? How best can you help people maximize what they have and what they need to do? Workers who work remotely are also found to be oftentimes more productive because, yeah, I don't have to commute. I don't have to worry about having to do a whole lot of mental work goes to just committing to work. A whole lot of imagine just having to wake up at 5 a.m. Your body just has to, by force, even when it's not ready to, by force has to just get to that level where by 5 we have to get going. If for any reason you don't wake up at 5, your whole system is destabilized. Or if you are not, in fact, for places like us where buses are timed, trains are timed, if for any reason you miss a train, you may have to wait another 30 minutes, and that shifts your whole day by almost an hour or two. So all of these things are things that employers are really concerned about. So I hope you're still with me, and I hope you are really enjoying this session. It's very interesting when you talk about remote work, because there are a lot of things that people don't see or talk about when you're considering remote work. But yeah, so those are some of the employers' concerns that I could summarize. If somebody wants to say something?
No, just giving thumbs up.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so I'll proceed and talk about, let me just take a few minutes to, wow, there are a lot of charts. Let me just quickly see what I may be missing. Just give me 1 minute. So I see a lot of people have said chat. I've put in charts in the chat box. Yeah, it's about Alan. I didn't see any question. There's a poll. Some of you are guilty of of multitasking during work. Of course, it's almost it happens. Some people don't even shower in the morning again because because they just go from bed to work. This is so interesting. So I sometimes make my lunch during Zoom meetings, because there are just some meetings where my attention is not needed. I just need to listen and make notes. I'm making lunch. Some people used to apply that into to church service. They'll be listening to messages and be frying plantain. All right, thank you so much. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I'll try as much as possible to take the questions and let you know. I tell you, working remote is really interesting because you can spend less. I don't have to pay for commute. I don't have to fill my gas. In fact, if I'm using a car and I feel I don't need it anymore, I can sell it off and take off the cost of having to pay roof taxes and all of those things. So for the employees now, let us talk our own talk. For the guys that are here, we've talked about your side and we understand where you're coming from and what are the things you have to grapple with. But for me now, we have to talk about I have to talk about the employees. So how do you start your day? On a very good day, some people
You're muted, Sam. Okay, now you're back.
All right.
You need to go back. We missed you for like a minute or two.
My bad. So I was saying that I've
Uh-huh.
spoken about the employer side and a lot of things that they grapple with, but how now do we talk about the employees themselves? So I sit in this space, which is me not having been even my first job, like when I started working again in Netherlands, which was in May of last year. All my conversations, interviews, and all of those things were done remotely. So I even couldn't have the opportunity to understand what the culture is, what the environment was. There were probably some things I would have done differently if I had conversations before signing the contract and all of those things. But yeah, so let's talk about the employee's perspective and see what it is. So how do you begin your day? Just begin. Some of us with a thick black cup of coffee can get the day started for us, probably after you've done all the other things you need to do. Coffee is just the best way to get your energies and steams rolling. So a few numbers, and remote workers, 30% of remote workers are likely to stay in their jobs more than on-site workers. So there are some jobs that you can do remotely, there are some jobs you can't do remotely. To be very, very strategic for you to understand where best you can maximize your business object. I'll get to that. But some jobs cannot just be done remotely. You can't be in the warehouse remotely. You can't be in logistics remotely. So 81% of respondents in one study also say that they'll be more loyal to the employer if they had flexible work options. And that's what a lot of people are finding. So for me, for some people, it's not mandatory for you to come to the office, but if you would love to come to the office, there's a workspace for you. And a lot of conversations happen around that. Now, Gallup is a research has it that 87% of millennials list the fact that if they have professional growth opportunities, it is one of the reasons why they would decide to work for an employer. So for an employee like myself, I'm looking at, okay, can I do certifications and you will pay for it? Then yeah, do I have a budget for personal development? Do I have access to paid learning platforms like LinkedIn Learning, like Udemy, like Pluralsight, and all of those things? Do I have an opportunity to learn skills that are relevant, related, or probably just interesting for what I do? All of this, can I go for conferences that are sponsored? Can I go on trainings that are sponsored and all of this, just to make sure that I'm able to do my work a lot better? A lot of people, especially for someone like me, all of these things are not there, then I'll do it myself, but it has to show on the salary. It has to show that, okay, we are paying you much more just because you can pay for these things or so that you can afford to pay for these things by yourself. So a lot of people understand that once these things are in place, the growth opportunities. Tell me, how long does it take for me to be a partner? How long does it take for me to go from this place to this place? Don't just make it very obscured. That is what this first point is saying. Secondly, engaged employees are said to be 21% more productive. Of course, I come to the office and there's nothing to do. Some employees are just like that, like you're asking the employers, and you're asking them, why are you not going to? They say there's no work. How will you say there's no work? Because some employees are not engaged. So you have to understand that you, as an employer, employees need to be engaged. Give them projects, give them tasks, not just flamboyant. Don't just tell them to be, not just telling them to be looking for what's not lost. Something contributive. It could be having them research on writing a white paper, having them do a short survey, having them come up with. There's a lot of things that you can come up with. It's not just talking about things on social media and posting. There are a lot of things that employees can be engaged in doing for their industry, in line with their industry, for partners, for associates, for service providers that can really engage the employees. It may not even be something the employer is thinking about, but you can ask your employees to bring up ideas on what they would love to work with in line with some certain guidelines that have been established for the company. And you just see the juices flowing. People will come up with ideas. They will be themselves the advocates, the founder, president, and CEO of those ideas. And they will do it just to feel fulfilled. And then it's all to the glory of the employer. So employees want engagement. Then the third point is 65% of employees haven't been recognized for their efforts in the last year. Why? Because some bosses just don't feel that the employees are doing work because they are not seen to be doing work. And that becomes a really, really huge challenge. You are doing so much, but even for myself, sometimes I was working like 12 hours in a day And it was really taking a toll on me. And then your boss will still tell you, you didn't do this, you are not supposed to. And then, you just get a whole lot of those attitudes. People are watching. And now people are having more options than before, because now some companies are able to employ remote workers exclusively. Like, or if I put it like this, some employers can leverage on remote workers without them having to commit or anything. It's a lot of cost labor efficiency for them. If a company is set up in the US, their developers are in India, those guys work almost at antagonizing time zones, but the job is done, the product is shipped, properly managed. Maybe somebody who is interfacing between the US and India, everything that needs to be done is done. Cheaper cost on labor, cheaper whatever I need, and all of those things. You pay even in a currency that is lower, and life is good for everybody. So employees are not being recognized, and that becomes an issue for employees. It's a big concern for a lot of them. So what are some of the benefits of remote chilling? Like some of my colleagues call it. They say they don't have to commute, which is really good. Some people don't have to go to office every day, which is a lot of time saved in commute. There's also less or no office small talk, all those back talks, gossips, and all of those things. Some people just feel sane and feel calm that all those small office talks are not there. Some people miss it, but some people are just very better with not having it. That's when you hear that something happened to somebody and somebody all of those funny talks. It just helps people to stay sane. And then there's also more inclusion for people with disability. So it's possible that someone cannot easily come to work because they probably have a wheelchair, or they have to use brailles and all of those things, but they can easily do job from their homes without having to grapple with the challenges of not having an environment or a city or a society where infrastructures are built for people with disabilities. People living in buildings that don't have escalators, they have to find a way to be carried downstairs, to be carried upstairs, to be, all of those challenges can be easily taken out when the people have the options of working remotely. All they have to do is have a very nice working space set up in their homes, and then you can even advocate that as more being inclusive with people with disabilities. So that becomes a selling point. And also, some people say there are fewer distractions at work, and sometimes some more time for family, which could be a plus for some people who have families, some who don't have families. It depends, but some people say that this is a good thing for them. Other people say that they're able to exercise and enjoy a bit of higher quality work life. Some people say they're enjoying a higher work-life balance. Some people are really advocating for environmental sustainability by saying that there is lesser carbon emission because they don't have to drive, they don't have to commute, they don't have to use carbon producing store. They even have to buy fewer clothes because they don't have to go to work, and that becomes a lot better for environmental sustainability. So those things are very, very, very good for employees and from the employees. And there are so much more, which I know a lot of us can really, really relate to. But as it is, there are also some challenges. One of it is, not being able to focus for long hours, because sometimes when you are if I for example living in Lagos, especially when you're living on a road in a house where the road cuts across your street or cuts just in front of your house, some people drive in very interesting ways. Somebody's greeting somebody, instead of you to wind down your glass and greet with your voice, you are greeting with on. Who does that? And somebody somewhere in his house trying to have a same meeting, you just wondering why you're greeting and you're making ringing tone with your horn. Like how? So it's a bit of challenge for people to have long hours of focus. Sometimes it's also a challenge for you to unplug. You just sit behind your laptop and morning till evening you're just there trying to get something done, and so you don't really cut the boundaries between when you're working and when you're not supposed to be working. You just say like, maybe I want to read something for a few minutes, and before you know it, you're working again. And then because you took time to read something, you have to make up time to work and then back. And for people who even work in organizations where there are deliverables, where you have to log your time, where you have to charge for billables, where you have to make sure that every minute you spend at work is something that we can account for, it becomes a whole lot of pressure. So a lot of people eventually work overtime. A lot of people have poor eating habits because, like some people just have a bottle of whatever drink that is easy and cheap and just munch something while they are working, just to keep the body moving. But over a period of time, they develop very poor eating habits because they don't eat right. They don't. Because sometimes it's a challenge for someone like me as well. Because if I have to go shopping, shops close maybe before I close from work, and I have to do shopping only on weekends. So if I need something in between the weeks, I have to either go during my break time or go as early as possible before the shop closes. And I'm not able to have a proper eating habit. Some people don't even have. I just have to do a meal plan for myself and keep it very close. So I know what I'm eating on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm able to manage with that. There's also the challenge of aches and body pains. I tell you, sitting in one position for hours is not beans at all. You see me, I'm moving already. My legs already crossed. It's getting a bit hot here because I'm speaking and a lot of movement, and so it could be quite a health challenge when you're sitting in uncomfortable chairs in uncomfortable positions. Some people have gotten so used to it that the way they just their body has their body has adjusted to their table that they are just in one funny things. So you see you have body aches and body pain, and it's also a challenge. You also have to grapple with the challenges of expensive gadgets. If you have to use multiple screens, if you have to use a headset that is noise canceling, if you have to use a proper podcast mic that is noise canceling as well, if you have to use strong Wi-Fi, if you have to use good light, if you have a whole lot of things. And some people also feel that they are lonely when probably they are joining an organization, and all you just see every day is you read the company policies, read the company document. You're supposed to figure everything out by yourself. When you are just joining an organization, it becomes very hard. They are looking for a document, you don't know where it is, so you spend time creating a new one. And before you realize, the new one you created is almost exactly as the one that was already existing. So a lot of things that employees have to grapple with in all of these things. So these are some of the things that employees struggle with when they work remotely. A lot of people are able to unplug. Some people feel lonely. Some people feel that they don't have that collaboration or communication. Some people feel distracted at home. Some people feel that there are a lot of challenges when you work with employees or colleagues from different time zones. Some people have the challenge of staying motivated across, working all through the hours in the day. Some people feel that taking vacation is just what their challenge is. They feel that they just have to keep on working and there's really no time for vacation. Some other people feel that there's so many other things, and then on the list, I know if it's in Nigeria, we will have to reverse this thing and put finding reliable Wi-Fi as the highest, because I tell you, even then when I was working in Jaws, I made sure that I usually had extra data. I was using Airtel, so in a week I use maybe like 8 gig, it got to maybe 16 gig, and then maybe I was comfortable just making sure that work is done. I don't see movies, I don't watch YouTube, I just do work, do as much as I can, document meals, corporate organization websites, and all of the things I need to work with. And sometimes 8 gigabyte goes in a day, and then if I have to do entertainment, I do it in the middle of the night because sometimes it's free and or it's always cheaper. But power, like I tell you, power banks were a thing. I had power bank phones. I was looking for power bank for laptop. So there was this plug that we had some time ago that you can plug to your car, and then you can use it to charge your laptop, because we had a converter. So sometimes it comes to that. You have to just keep your car running so that your laptop can charge inside your car. And so all of those things just to make sure that work is really comfortable. And sometimes I'm traveling and I have to work. It's sometimes challenging because you get to checkpoints and they're asking, hey, identify yourself. All those kind of things. Anytime I'm traveling, my laptop is always under the seat. Even if I can say I'm a lawyer and be telling them English that is inside Oxford Dictionary, the way they will mishandle you won't even have the opportunity to do anything. So I just respect. I don't even say, well, what if it comes to the question of who are you, I'll say I'm a lawyer. But apart from that, I keep my hair very short, no beard, no dread. These guys can just, because they'll just mess you up for no reason. And before you can come out of those things, you would have lost a lot. Clients are depending on you, customers are depending on you, your employers are depending on you, and then you just get yourself into a situation where you're not able to come out of it. And so a lot of things happen in the Nigerian space that I was really conscious about. So I made sure that I don't go to places where I know I won't be safe. I also don't go to places where I know I have to stay longer than necessary. If I know there's a checking point, The days I'm going where I don't have any stuff to declare, I greet those police officers so they recognize my face in time, in case of a time where I have to come and I have laptop or work stuff with me and all of this. But all of these things were challenges we had to grapple with. The way you drive also, and I don't just drive and be, I just give them those respect because when they are respected, they feel calm, they are okay, they cooperate and all of those things. And if you're also traveling with people that are funny, you also have to understand that I interview some of the people I travel with. What do you do? Where are you coming from? Where are you going to? So if it becomes an issue at the checkpoint, I know how to exonerate myself and say, well, I don't know him. And then sometimes it's just interesting. I was traveling with a footballer who came in from, I think he plays for Egypt club, and then we're traveling together from Abuja to Jos, and I knew it was a footballer. He had dread coils and yeah, he just said he was a footballer. So when we got to a military checkpoint and they asked, what do we do? They say, people look like footballers. I say, yes, we are footballers. This I just joined them. I say, yes, we are footballers. They say, if I give you football now, can you dribble me? I say, okay, if you drop the gun, I can dribble you. It just became a laughing stock. They checked everybody, checked the car. There was nothing incriminating, and then we moved on. So these are some of the challenges we have to grapple with when it comes to remote working as an employee. Now, the last part of this is what works best for you as an organization, as an employer of labor, as a remote worker. You have to understand your industry, what happens in your industry, how best are you able to leverage against your competitors when it comes to your industrial outlook. There are some organizations that logistics cannot be remote. Restaurants cannot be, they can, of course, they can prepare the food and deliver to you, but if you don't have that infrastructure for delivery services, then you still have to manage. A lot of things can be done remotely, but if your industry permits it, then find a way to make it work best for you. Train your employees on what can be done and what can be done. Make the lines very clear so they know once they cross the line, they know the consequences. If you're supposed to be at work and you didn't inform anybody and you're out of the city, I knew somebody who was working in Ghana and was schooling in the UK, and the person was being asked to come and pick office resources for work, and the person was like, I'm not feeling fine, I'm not feeling, and you're not feeling fine is going 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month, 3 months. You're not feeling fine, you're not feeling fine. What is going on? And the person was in another continent entirely from work. So some of these things you have to really, really define the lines. What is too much? What is, if you miss meetings too much, it sends a red signal. Some people are really able to manage it because they just make sure that they are able to coordinate everything properly, which is really cool. I could work in Switzerland or I could work in Brussels, and I just make sure that I don't miss meetings. I make contributions, I do my deliverables when I need to do them, and we move. Secondly, you have to understand what the resources are available to you as an employer and what resources you are able to make available to your employees, and then know how to rationalize it. Third, you have to beef up your security and privacy practices. What are your information security trainings, the drills, the business continuity? You have to do the penetration testing. Let your employees understand the criticality of what they do and how they do it, and make sure that all of those things are properly taught, properly explained, properly set out so that your employees understand what is expected of them. Also, you have to understand what are the favorable policies and favorable laws and internal policies that you have to navigate to make sure that working remotely is best in the interest of your organization and the interest of your employees, and see what works. Fifth is understand your business objectives. What are you really trying to achieve? Your short-term goals, your long-term goals, your overall goals, and what is your bottom line? What is your finance? What are your finance books, your financial statements saying about your company, and how will remote work help you to push it up or maintain it or prevent it from going down? Understand what your business objectives are. Because if you understand how these things should work or how these things work, it would be a lot easier for you to navigate whether to do remote or whether not to do remote. Have these conversations with your employees. Let them come up with a solution that you will hold them accountable to, and then promises that they can also hold you accountable for, and see how it works. Then last but not the least is also to create clear deliverables, clear reporting, clear KPIs. Sometimes employees are not clear and they don't know what they're supposed to do. They just feel that going to work is just working. No, you have to be able to tell them, okay, between this period and this period, you have to be able to do this, and do that. So let's plan. How do you plan your calendar? How do you manage your time? What are the things you need to do, when and how? And put all of those things in proper perspective. And then you can decide whether or not you want to do remote work, or you want to do hybrid, or you want to do full-time in the office. Like I said, the earlier conversation about Tesla having all of his remote work, all of his workers work in the office 40 hours, they have a lot of deadlines. They're trying to do space, they're trying to do phones, they're trying to do, there are a lot of cars that have been, or there's a Tesla plate, which a lot of people have ordered for, and they are yet to be delivered. And all of these things are a concern for, the shareholders, the stakeholders, and everybody involved. So these are things that they have to manage and grapple with. Yeah, so understand your industry and know what works. I hope with these few points of mine, I've been able to convince you and not confuse you that you can do remote work, or you can do hybrid, or you can also work in the office and still have a very wonderful life. Thank you very much.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Amazing. What
Wow.
Oh my God. I was just about to step in and say, my chair to say, oh, you have 5 minutes more. The way you always try to check debaters so that they can wrap up with their, but it just kept going on and on. So I was confused. Do I tell my chair that, okay, it's time to wrap this, or should I just continue taking my notes as an Oliver Twist that I am? Because there were a lot of gems that you were dropping. I'm like, no, there's a reason why you're called the enabler. Honestly, it's evident right now. And I'm sure everyone on this call can attest to that. Thank you so much. Because, my God, Samuel, where do I start? The way you're able to break down the different concerns on part of an employee and part of an employer, because like my chair said, I keep calling Mrs. O. I'm sure she's tired of me calling her that. Like I keep saying, she said practice managers will occupy a very interesting role in law firms. We are both employees, we're also both part of management. So how do you manage these things in such a way that everyone is included in final decision making? And you've helped open our eyes to a lot of things that we probably may have missed. But when we go back on Monday, we're going to just put on, a new hat and say, yes, thank you so much for this. This presentation was very fantastic. Normally when you are on calls like this, you have to prepare yourself like you're the moderator. Do not sleep up. Do not wait for anybody to come and remind you. But I was awake. I was taking notes. I don't want to show you my notes because my handwriting is not very fantastic, but I took a lot of notes from what you said. And the poll, Michael, do you want to come in and give your comments on the poll and the presentation?
Yeah, fantastic. Honestly, Samuel, I think one of the marks of people who know what they're talking about is their ability to break it down in simplicity. It was near elementary. There is no one here who would say they did not understand what you have shared. And I want to say thank you. It was amazing. But, it's not time for closing remarks. So let me leave that to whoever is doing it. But I just needed to express that. So quickly, the responders, we had only 8 responders, out of about how many people we have on here, 16. And I dare say that 87.5% actually say that they are guilty of being distracted while working. They are guilty of multitasking, doing something else while they are working remotely. That's 7 people out of 8, and only 1 person picked the B option, which I think says they focus 100%, although that is arguable. But then again, I'm not them, so I don't know. So that's it for the poll. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ma. Before we get to the Q&A section, I just wanted to quickly talk about what I was saying before I had to check myself so that the presentation would go on. It's about our June 30th event, which is taking place at the Lagos Court of Arbitration. It's a managing partners roundtable, and this is targeted at Nigerian law firms, the top leaders and top management executives. And the theme is leading the law firm of the future. We can all attest to what changes the pandemic has brought in work life. And hey, we're talking about remote work today. So whether we like it or not, this roundtable is going to help us foster a dialogue on management strategies, for sustainable development and growth of the legal sector, because we cannot say we want to continue to be where we are in 2022. We're hoping to have an improvement in the next 2 years, in the next 5 years. And these are things that we're going to be discussing, alongside MBA SPL on the 30th of June from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And the way the session has been structured, we're going to ensure that constructive discourse. We're not just going there to say things that we will not achieve or say things that are not going to be put into practice. And we are hoping that we will leave that event, with solutions to whatever issues that we currently have in our law firms, because like the theme said, the law firm, leading the law firm of the future. We want to be able to look back and say, yes, we were instrumental in this discourse with MBA SBL to putting out solutions that worked for everyone. And yes, I forgot this part.
If I may. Okay.
Yes.
If I may, just very quickly, I want to encourage all practice administrators and managers on the forum to please encourage your managing partners to be at this event, because again, like Ijeoma said, this is our future here. This is the future of law firm, which we are managers. We manage practices. That's our role. So we have to also help them. We have a lot of complaints having come forth from some small firms saying that they don't even have practice managers. They don't even know which way forward. And we also have lawyers complaining about this whole thing about why can't we work remotely? Coming to work is not even really necessary from what we have. There is just a lot of issues to discuss. And we must let you know that we have the creme de la creme of the industry. And I'm talking about top tier law firms being there to come and share what they've done so far with their structures, new law firms who are springing up, new partnerships springing up, and then new managing partners in succession will also be there. And everyone is just going to come to this roundtable to talk about their experiences and how they are handling. There is a future. We are there. That's the truth. And we need to know how to manage. So this managing partner roundtable has been carefully curated to have all the necessary people who will address the salient issues that we're dealing with in the law firm. So please check with your law managing partners if they have our invite. Also encourage them to sponsor, and also you yourself make it a date to be there. So June 30, that's Thursday at LCA. It's in the morning for 3 hours. We gather, sit, and then we deal with these issues. Thank you.
My chair has said it all, and I'm just going to move to, if you're not following us already, we are very social on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on LinkedIn, we're also on Facebook and YouTube. We have a very active YouTube channel, and I'm sure we're going to post today's training on that YouTube channel. But please don't forget to follow us on social media. Let's just keep the conversation of today going beyond this morning. And we'll be sending a training feedback form to participants who are on this call so that we get a sense of issues we're going to address in future trainings, nominations of speakers that you feel, okay, we've seen what this person is doing in his space, and that knowledge and expertise will be helpful for us as legal management professionals. But I will just jump straight to the Q&A, and I'm looking through.
Ijeoma, sorry, very quickly, please, at some point, we're going to encourage everyone to turn on their video so we can take a screenshot of this event and have it posted on our social media. Please beg you, if your wig is not on, please wear it like I'm wearing mine. And then, do your face up a bit. We will turn on the video at some point after the Q&A. Aha, my Persido, my chair, yes. There you go. Let's do this. Okay, great. All right, over to you, Q&A, Ijeoma.
Yes. So please do the Q&A. I have seen a few comments and some questions, one from our president and one from Margaret David. So I don't know, are we going to wait for people to just quickly type in your questions on the chat?
No, I think we should start. I think we should just start. Okay. Yeah, because time is well spent.
So starting from when your presentation was on, let me see. She made a few comments and there was a particular question she asked. And one of them is, how do you teach culture remotely? So I'm thinking, should I run through the questions, then you answer them one after the other, or ask them one after the other? So the first question is, how do you teach culture remotely? The second one from the president is, how do you reduce subjectivity in performance evaluation in a remote work setting, especially if you do not have a login in culture? So these questions are on the chat box, so you can always refer to them. There are a few comments about having to deal with the troubles of remote work. Then the next one is, will you be able to say, okay. So Samuel, how did remote work affect your getting attuned culturally with your firm? And then the question from, hold on. The question from Margaret Davis says, okay, she's thanking you for the insightful session. So what is your view about using software to manage employee performance while working remotely? How effective is this approach? So there's like 4 questions. I don't know if you got all 4, or should I run through them again? Okay, perfect. So you can unmute your mic. I'll mute myself now.
So thank you very much for the questions and for the interactions in the chat. So first is, how do you teach culture remotely? Culture is quite a very, very interesting aspect and something that is not easily taught. It has to be caught. So while remote work may not be all that easy to advocate for culture, what you can do is, as often as possible, have in-person meetings, and you can do more from unofficial settings than in official settings. So if you know you always come to the office wearing suit and tie and looking serious and all, untouchable on a Monday to Friday, you can decide to have hangouts that people will just be in their element, play and relax, and then you easily know how people relate, how people act, how people do things, and it's easy for you to understand people better. Then you can take what you know about them to the online space to help them understand how to understand the culture or connect better with the culture. So for example, I work in an organization where you just have to, once you get to the office, just hit it hard and keep going. But we always stuck with work. But what we had to do was do unofficial events where we just have drinks. We are not talking work, we're not talking shop, we're not talking business. Just get to know it. And you hear a lot of things. Oh, I saw this thing, I've been here this years, I've been there, done that. And those kind of things give a better avenue for people to catch the culture rather than having them sit down and take note. In this place, this is how we do this. So just create an informal session around that and say hi. So for me, I couldn't also have a lot of unofficial hangouts. So what I do is I have calls set up with a lot of my colleagues. So we just gist, nothing about work. Tell me about it. So I know some of my colleagues have dogs. I know they have cats. I know the name of their cats. I know the name of their dogs. If they are traveling and they have to travel with their pets, how they have to put cage and get permits, get license, get vaccination, get passports for the pet. And I'm like, in this one word. So those kind of conversations make it a lot easier for you to understand how, and those kind of conversations usually lead back to the organization, because one question would just be like, oh, this was how we handled this in the last period of time. And then, so you get to really see how things, so more conversations, officially or unofficially, during work or outside work, helps you to really get into people's safe space, and then you're easily able to influence them with the culture. So it's more about creating very informal sessions so that you can influence them or impress on them the culture you're trying to teach. But also is the fact that define the culture. Don't just say we want to teach culture. What culture? Are you teaching people how to speak, how to dress, how to approach stuff? What particular define that culture? There's a culture in an organization that says we don't dress this way, and that is what a lot of people just adopt, and it becomes the standing order. So be concise on what the culture is. Don't just make it so ambiguous that people don't even understand what the culture itself is. So, and then don't try to teach everything at once. It has to be a gradual process. You can't learn everything you've learned over your life to a new employee within a short period of time. So yeah. Secondly, subjectivity in performance evaluation. This grammar is big. So the way I understand it is there is no one particular, if I'm right, it means there is no single standard for measuring performance or evaluating performance at work. Again, it's for you to be able to define your metrics. If you have an employee, what is the job description? What is the employee supposed to have as deliverables on the daily basis, or the weekly basis, or the monthly basis? My organization did not create that for me. I created it for myself. So I have a spreadsheet. I have things to do on daily basis. I have things to do on weekly basis. I have things to do on monthly basis. So it's built from the weekly basis, and then I'm able to break it into daily basis. So I have my week from the from the from this day, Monday to Friday. I'm able to list all the things I need to do. And if I have to have a call with any of my senior colleagues, I'm able to tell them these are the things I've done this week. So I'm accountable first to myself before I'm accountable to my boss. And that helps me to avoid a whole lot of suspicion that this guy is not working or is just cruising. Even if I'm not working, I'm thinking about work, and I'm able to document the things I thought about in such a way that when I come to work, I'm able to put all of those things together as part of the things I did during work. So that was how I was able to maneuver that. Software to manage engagement at work. If you do it, they will break it. I can guarantee that. There is a software that is being used to know how many times your mouse moves and how many clicks your mouse moves. And you know what, guys, there was a device they invented. It is like a platform like this. It has a ball inside it that is automated, connected to your. It has its own remote control. So what they now do is they put the mouse. So it has a rolling ball on it. They put the mouse on that platform, so they just plug it to the USB. The mouse is rolling by itself every minute. The mouse is just rolling. So if you are thinking that the employee is working, this is what is moving the mouse. So employees are finding creative ways to make sure they are not being monitored at work. And even if they are being monitored at work, they are still finding a way to game the system. People are now asking for how to use one Zoom account for two different employees. People are looking for how to make sure that this information from this employee, people now have two different Wi-Fi's in their house for two different employers. Or so a lot of, so if you build it, they will break it. But if you insist on having to monitor your employee without setting for them clear goals of what they need to deliver, then it becomes an issue as well. So let me know that within 2 weeks, I have to work on this and let it be delivered. So if I have to do it and do it within 5 days, and the remaining part of the week, I'm not doing much, it's fine. Set educational goals as well for them. There are online courses they can take, and then have them create summary. Just make sure that employees are doing their job description, and make the job description very clear. Many managers are having challenges because the job descriptions for employees are not clear. So employees themselves are just running from pillar to post, and they are not even clear on what is expected of them. So as much as possible, make it as simple as possible. Yeah, I hope I was able to answer those questions. Any other questions?
Yes, so there is how did remote work affect your getting attuned culturally with your firm? Now, this is from your experience now. The question is, how did your remote work affect your getting attuned culturally with your firm?
My firm now, I can't even say I'm culturally attuned, because there are just a lot of things I'll still do on my own and have to figure out, but it is not detrimental to the work I do in the firm. For me as a lawyer, I work with a team of about 20 lawyers, German, French, US, UK. I'm the only Nigerian in the legal team. And these guys have their own experiences. Some have practiced in the US, then practiced in France, then came to practice in the Netherlands. And then, so it's all a mixed culture. And then you're not even, but we have standards of how to do things. If you are writing a document, there is a way the document has to come across. There are principles that have to do with 4 I's, which is once you've written it, pass it through one or two other people to have a second look before it goes to the final stage. So for me, I can't even say, if I'm measured based on culture, of course, I'm not able to say I'm fully integrated, but I'm making progress on a daily basis. And recently I wore a suit to the office, and my vice president was like, "Boy, you're wearing a suit." And I'm like, "Yes, am I not supposed to say, I can't remember the last time I wore a suit in the last 14 years?" I'm like, okay. So that kind of feedback for me is also like, there's a way guys dress here that being suited is overdressed. And I'm like, okay, I also have a brand I'm trying to communicate, because for me, I'm not just trying to be an employee, I'm trying to be a remarkable employee. So I don't mind wearing a suit, but I understand that dressing is not one of the things we have to enforce here. But of course, if you go your way to dress very nice, your attention, you are recognized for it, so to speak. But yeah, define the
Fantastic.
culture, learn about it, iterate, make sure you repeat it as much as often. don't think people know it because they've been around. Remind them as much as you can.
Yeah, that would even help to ensure that there is no cultural attrition, because even a culture that is established requires reinvention, and it requires, telling people over and over again so it's in their face. Thank you. That answers that. Now, there's a question from Angela that says, how do you manage a situation where you want remote work to work, but you have discipline and compliance issues with some staff?
If you decide on how best to approach this, it will be very strategic. First, if you make a scapegoat of one, it sends a lesson to every other person.
That's correct.
But you now have to consider at what cost are you making an example of one person for the other. If you lose your very key player, you lose an MVP because of compliance issues, then it also becomes a business concern. If you put someone on suspension, how do you prevent of building bad blood or gossip and background information in the organization? So you have to weigh the pros and cons. If this person is someone you've had conversations with often or as much as you can, to let them know that this thing they are doing is wrong, it's unacceptable, then you can do all you can to make sure that you help the person make a change. But if you think it's impossible, then you can start thinking of a replacement. And don't let it be an emotional decision. Make it very clear. These were the things we make these 2-3 meetings with you to clear it out, and it didn't work, and we're sorry. We really care about you. We'll write recommendation letters for you. We just don't fit in our culture anymore. We have to let you go.
Awesome. So another question, against popular belief, it is my belief that remote working makes hiring and firing easy. In your opinion, what are the points that can lead to hassle-free termination of a staff working remotely?
My best bet to that is work with the laws that are most favorable to employees rather. So if you're an employee, it depends on what laws you want to bring yourself under. So of course, they send you a work contract and they're able to revise it and say, okay, I agree to this, I don't agree to this. The arbitration clause or the clause which says how we resolve dispute says we shall be subject to the law of this country and all of these things. If it's something you're able to do and negotiate it for a different country, then of course, why not? But because also that a lot of people are easily they easily come in and go these days, you have to also keep your pipeline fresh. I always have people who are able to replace other positions in the shortest possible time. And yeah, I think that's the best way I can, or if maybe this situation is more specific, I may be able to maybe come up with a use case and see what the possible solutions could be.
Fantastic, thank you. I think we've addressed all the questions at this point. If I'm, oh, okay. Is there a question? I didn't hear that.
Stephanie, do you have a question?
One question from David. She's asking about his view on using software to manage employee performance while working remotely. How effective is the approach?
I think.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I thought he answered that already. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it depends on what you're trying to achieve. If your employees feel policed and they are not able to bring their A game, I think it's also very dependent on the kind of jobs. If you are trying to just police your employees, make sure they get every dime out of the salary you are paying them, then it's becoming more of a labor than enjoying the work. But like I said again, you can monitor them if you have to for security reasons. There are some softwares and solutions that work on my laptop just to make sure there's no intrusion, no cyber attack, no pilfering of company documents, no sending unnecessary attachments. You do your DLP and all of it. But monitoring how many hours I spend on I can decide to close my laptop and be thinking. That's the level of work I have to do because I'm reading laws, interacting with colleagues in different places. You can't monitor how many hours I spend sitting at my desk. I could pick up a book that is very critical to what I'm doing and be reading it offline, and my computer is locked and you cannot measure that. So if you have me defending every minute I spend in the office, then at what cost is it coming to you? So think about the pros and cons. If you monitor your employees, are you able to get the best out of them by enslaving them to that monitoring or policing? Or do you think you just have to do it because every other person is doing? So do what works for you. Let the employees know the reasons why you're doing it and the reasons why you choose not to do it, and hold them to it. A lot of people are very reasonable, but have these conversations with them.
Fantastic. Okay, if I can come in quickly before we go to the next thing, can we turn on our videos now so we take a quick selfie, please? And then I'm going to raise a point and one more question that has just come in, and then we round up at that. Please turn on your videos. Let's have this quick selfie. Videos on, please. Thank you. Videos on, videos on. Don't miss out on this. And you can change the view to gallery. Yeah. Sachima video, Fumbi video, Stephanie video, Ebele video, please. So you don't miss out. Okay, I'm taking it for granted that those whose videos are not on don't want to be, their pictures they don't want their pictures taken. All right, I see a few people. All right, let's say cheese. Alan. Okay, say Alan then. Awesome, awesome. Thank you everyone. Okay, all right. So one quick thing that I think that we've been able to establish here is that, look, even Samuel rounded up by saying what works for you. It's essential that we go back to the drawing board, the culture that the organization has currently. What kind of people are your people? Someone was talking about discipline. Before remote work came, how are you dealing with discipline? You know, so all of these things you also need to put in perspective. So please still turn on your video. We'll take another round of selfie if I may. And someone says, so what we have done to manage is, okay, I think it's in response to that question. I saw a question shortly before I turned off. So what we've done to manage it was isolate the cases and called back the affected staff to office full-time for same time as punitive measure. So this is the person that asked the question about how to deal with compliance issues and discipline issues. So what they have done is to ask this person who wasn't handling remote work well and not complying to return to the office full-time, you know, and then they could monitor. So we are monitoring to see what impact that makes. Now, let me say it was challenging to get all decision makers to agree to this option rather than cancel remote work. So what would have happened was, because of these few staff, remote work would have been canceled in their firm. But rather than do that, they isolated the case and asked that person to work fully in the office. That was the punitive measure that was put in place. I guess then that perhaps if it works and they are still reviewing to see how well it works, maybe it will prevent other people from taking the remote work for granted. Someone is teasing us that they are not recognizing us in our weeks. Oh, well. So I think that's it. If bearing any other question, I just want to just say this very quickly before I invite Benedicta to take the stage and give the closing remarks. So these concerns, as listed by Samuel, has been very insightful and very interesting, because like I said on the chart, I said as practice managers, we play a dual role. We are for employees, we are for employers, we have to balance. And I think that one of the things that I'm taking home from what Samuel has said is that in Nigeria, it is best to weigh it in terms of, you know, what's most profitable for you. And I think that it's always a game of numbers. It's always about bottom line. If you look at the cost in terms of if your people work fully or if they work hybrid, and then you compare it to if people work remotely, what works best for you. Also, your people, what kind of people are they? We also need to check the there's a psychoanalysis that can be done on employees, because some people just don't do well remotely. They are distracted. They can't work well in such circumstances. They'll rather do face-to-face. So if you know your people and you have done an analysis to know what percentage of your staff, what kind of temperament they have and how they prefer to work, these are things that you have to put in together into making the decision whether to go full remote or hybrid, or not even dabble in there at all. So at this point, I will say thank you to Samuel, and then I will invite Benedicta Eze to do a quick closing remark before we move to the next thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Otun. Very, very thought-provoking. First, I'd like to thank Samuel. Like I said, this is a very thought-provoking webinar discussion. And of course, Ijeoma for moderating this session so efficiently, and Odun for co-moderating as well. When Samuel first started talking about the concerns of remote working, I also took down a few notes. I don't know even, okay, Ijeoma said she did. And I think a few that stood out for me were time zones, poaching, liabilities, which is dangerous because it may unbalance the law firm structure and where it operates. Also the risk of double jobs, overemployment, and running the risk of trade secrets. I mean, I just wanted to share a few of the ones that stood out for me. So thank you very much, Samuel, for giving us that. It's a lot to unpack, and I'm sure that we've all learned how to navigate through these issues and, take it back to our various firms and begin to implement where necessary. Sadly, very sadly, and personally, as much as I don't want this to end, and I say that I speak for a lot of people here, Samuel, you've stimulated a lot of ideas in us, and I press this more because when you first started, I was looking forward to, okay, let's see what, because, having been in the VUCAD environment for a while, you're looking for what's new and not something that has been spoken about, frequently. And so you gave me something else that is different from, the regular things that, we're all used to. And thank you very much for that. We have come to the end of this webinar, sadly. I see my chair, Joy Harrison Abiola. I would like to thank you as the president of Alan. I would also like to thank the participants for joining us this beautiful Saturday morning that started out raining. I think that the weather, I don't know how it is in your area, but the weather also helped with the seminar, and it's a beautiful day. I'd just like to appreciate all our audience and of course, wish you a very lovely weekend. Thank you for joining us this morning, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Benedict.
Sorry,
yes.
Forgive me to jump in.
Okay, yes, please.
Forgive me to jump in because ordinarily that should be the sign off. But I really want to mention that we do have the enabler in our midst, and we are all influencers. I don't know what Samuel's contract is right now in Netherlands, but I know that there is a lot he can do for our firms. So you have his, and he's done this entirely free, because of relationship. So, but there are lots and lots of ways that he can still make a difference in what we do. So feel free, I don't know if I'm sure he wouldn't mind to contact him if you have projects that you think that he can absolutely make a difference in your firms. And there are a lot of issues that we are grappling with right now concerning remote work. And, there is a lot that he can add to enable that process. Just to mention that. Thank you very much.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you.
Share his profile, his details with us.
Yes, so we will share that. And if I may ask, Samuel, would you mind if we have the slides, please?
Yeah, I was expecting that question. So I was thinking that I'll make a version that is easily
a version.
Yes, so
okay.
Before the end of it.
Okay, all right, great. We would also share that. And then your social media handles, if
Samuel
you can.
Famolu, anywhere you want to look for it. Samuel Famolu.
So you are the only Samuel Famolu. Awesome, fantastic.
Or you can go to samuelfamolu.com. You should be able to find a few links there. Samuel
Famolu, okay. Okay, awesome. So thank you everyone once again. It's been insightful, if I may say, and it's been like Benedicta said, there's a stirring now, in us, and we know how to approach our managing partners on these issues, and we will do much more, studying and looking at all the things that you have talked about as it relates to us in the country. Thank you very much. So people, if a bit of networking before you jump off. Even if you are in bed, just talk, unmute yourself, say something to someone. It's good to see you people's face. Oh,